joining us today. We're going to have a conversation about flow and some of the things that we learned from flow, talk about some of the things going on in the industry today, and really just talk about how some of the tools that are out there in the space can really start to transform the business for an MSP. So I have the pleasure of introducing not only Karl, our CEO here, but Bobby Jacobs, head of growth over at Thread.
What's up, Bobby?
Hey guys, Karl, Jared, our booths were next to each other at Flow,
Like
which I don't think
best
was
friends?
an accident. Yeah, I think, and I think that Roos helped facilitate that, which was awesome. So fun to be hanging out here. Normally I feel like it would have been a while, but we just spent a couple days in person.
I know. It's great. Look, Flow Conference was just awesome again, and it's really cool. And I love that we're working together. Raven and Thread are forming a really cool relationship. We're excited about it. So
that's right.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, honestly, there's another conference coming up here, if I'm not mistaken. Aren't you guys over at Thread having your very first AI conference?
That's right. AI Service Unleashed. We have a community of I don't know, probably 150 MSPs that join a call weekly to talk all things AI. We talk some Thread product. Typically, some people are doing demos of some things they built. Jared, I know you've been on there. And really, it was like, hey, we have all of this momentum, really insane community, probably the biggest AI specific MSP community right now. We're like, let's bring this together. Let's do it in person. So yeah, that is mid-September. If you want to know more about that, feel free to reach out. It's gonna be really cool. It's gonna be pretty small too. I think there'll be 60, 70 MSPs, but should be great.
That's awesome. It'll be a nice intimate experience there.
Yeah, to me, this is an example of what I love about the Flow Conference. It's and I'm excited to see what you guys turn up over there at Thread. We'll be there. I'm pretty sure we're sponsoring as well. But these bespoke, more focused conferences, for what I view as kind of like the elite crowd that's a little bit ahead of the rest, if that makes sense. Those of us that are kind of engineering and taking advantage of the change and leading the way. And I love to be aware of this community, and I love to be a part of it, doing whatever we can for our part. It's a cool idea. It's what I like about even Andrew Morgan's Ride a Boom conference, the Flow conference, the upcoming Thread conference. These are some really great opportunities to get out of the fray of some of the kind of big mega conferences that I feel like the content's just not as good and not as focused. So I'm really excited. That's why I love our topic today. We all just went to Flow, and let's see what we figured out. Maybe help some folks that didn't get a chance to attend, or all of us get together and think about what we learned. And those that did attend, maybe we can get a few questions today as well. We'll see. But I love sitting and reflecting, because the thing that I fear from conferences is we go, we get ideas, we get excited, and then we come back and we start the rest of our day and we kind of
forget about everything.
Lose focus. Yeah, lose focus.
That's right.
All these great ideas that we had, and so let's take advantage. Let's take that time we invested and the money invested to get there, and let's make use of it. So I'm excited.
For sure. So if you're not familiar with Raven, we'll just take a couple of seconds and tell you a little bit about Raven Automation and who we are. So Raven Automation was formed specifically by a group of seasoned MSP veterans that really saw the need to help bring more automation into the MSP space. We were having some really good success inside of our own MSP, and started having a few others reach out to ask for help along the way, and decided that this might be a great direction to help further drive that community forward with automation. So Raven Automation, we are your automation partner. We can help you refine processes during your discovery phase. We'll help you build those automations that'll actually work inside of your environment and can integrate with other solutions inside of your tool stack, and continuously help monitor and improve those automations that are running in your day-to-day stack and helping drive your business forward. So same thing on the Thread side. Bobby, you want to take a second and tell those that aren't really familiar with Thread a little bit about what you guys do?
Yeah, absolutely. And love Raven. Couldn't recommend Raven more. You guys are a certified thread something consultant, integrator, experts.
Certifiable, we'll go with that.
Yes, certified all around. Yeah, so Thread's an AI service desk for MSPs. We integrate with your core ticketing system, your system of record. We don't replace it, but we help you integrate AI right into the ticket for the technician and for the end user. So think auto triage, customer facing things, and then user reaches out. We'll go back and forth, get all the context, prioritize, write the titles, time entries, like everything that is like low level work that your team spends a lot of time doing. And then we can kick off to our integration with Roost and have zero touch ticket closures. So it's really fun to talk about at the conference, zero touch ticket closures, and point to Roost as a cross right there. You should use us together, and you should talk to Raven to make all that happen. And it's awesome.
Yeah, it's really cool how this partnership between Roost, Raven, and Thread came about. If we go back to last November there at IT Nation, we had one of those hold my beer moments, and the next thing you know, we're kicking off automations directly from Thread's AI, which was absolutely amazing. And then I think we did a session kind of impromptu on the weekly Roost Rock call to highlight how MSPs can start doing similar things. So
from my perspective, this has been just another example of how I like to do business. It's a community-driven effort. For those of you that have known me for a long time in the MSP space, you know that I've participated, I've offered, different, I don't know, courses or speeches, I guess, at IT Nation or at Dato conferences, at the Ride of Boom. For me, the community is powerful. And that's how we meet guys like Bobby and see what's going on with Thread. And that's how we get these ideas. In fact, the very idea of Raven, I think, came from community, because we saw what Roost was doing and just started participating, started going to their calls. And suddenly we're like, hey, there's a need for service here. And similarly, Thread's filling a hole that the PSAs just can't seem to even think about, and I don't know why. But not only that, it's so much better. And so to me, it's like this is a really cool thing that we've got going here, and we all kind of, as they say, a rising tide raises all boats, right? I feel like we're all working together on these things, and why not think, how can we cooperate more than how do we compete, I suppose. And we don't even compete with Thread at all anyway, but the point is I just feel I like co-opetition way more than I like competition.
Yeah,
there's so much opportunity for it.
Yeah, I was going to say a little known secret here is not only are we partners with Thread, but we actually use Thread in our own business every day. So great product that you have. But I don't think everybody came to listen to us ramble about Raven specifically or Thread specifically. They came here to talk about Flow. So just a couple of things about Flow. I mean, it's really, really great to see how much that conference has grown just from year 1 to year 2 and exactly what's going to go with year 3. That first year with Flow was really all about bringing automation into your own house, getting all of your internal processes going, driving that operational efficiency, starting to learn the platform. As we jump into year 2, I think it's pretty obvious to everyone that was there. The focus now is, how do we take what we've been doing for the last year for our own businesses, and how do we start to bring that into our clients? How do we start to deliver my new favorite acronym, automation as a service? How do we start delivering that into client environments and really driving that client retention and driving that additional revenue into the MSP space?
Yeah, it's awesome. It's a new community, but it's a lot of familiar faces that I've seen. And once again, I kind of view it as an elite cut of the community, is the folks that are thinking this way, the folks that recognize. I think that the entire industry is undergoing one of those major shifts, and those of us that have been around for a while have been through this a time or two before. I think the most recent major evolution in the industry was to focus on cybersecurity prior to this one, and this one feels like it's got moving even faster and quicker, and the recognition of the need is greater, and the demand from the customer is extensive. There isn't a business owner I talk to about automation that doesn't go, oh man, do I need that, right? So it's a matter of figuring out how and in what way, because it's not just as simple as having the idea, is it? This is
Not
what
at
I
all.
love about this community, and getting together and learning what others are doing and improving each other is amazing, and tools to use. Bobby, how was Flow 1 and 2 for you?
Yeah, I mean, I think Roost does such a good job with Flow of making it like not the Roost conference. Like it is, like obviously they're the ones that are hosting it, and there's a lot of incredible Roost content and community, but it really is focused on like how do you put automation and AI into your business. I loved Aaron's keynote where he said AI does not equal automation. That was like one of his first slides, and there was like the classic like doesn't equal, I need another arm for it. It was AI doesn't equal automation, right? And then he had his own definition of automation, which was, you can guess what it was, but he was like, this is my definition of the week. It changes all the time. Like we don't need a dictionary, like because it's changing, how do we put that into our business? And I think even just like the culture of like, we're all figuring this out together. There's always new opportunity, new things in the Roost platform, new pieces to the community, new strategies, and just like, hey, we're getting together, we're working on this. The breakouts were awesome. Like I think they just did a really good job of facilitating, like, let's all do the best we can and get automation that actually makes a difference and isn't just like all playing around with workflows, but is like we're automating real things that make an impact.
Yeah, I love it. It doesn't feel like a big sit down for an ads from vendors. You know, that's it's so much more useful than that. And I think that they're very smart in their approach. I love the vendor agnostic approach. I don't know if the other vendors that compete with Roost feel that it is, but it is, and I know that it is. And I know everybody's got to see the table. I've always appreciated when our vendors are cool like that, because they allow us the choice, and they can be confident that we'll make the choice that works best for us, right? But the more powerful thing, and you touched on, use the word culture, and I think in some ways that's what Jared was referring to, is automation and AI is a cultural movement, and getting your service provider to leverage this is a culture movement. So like Jared said, last year, everybody was figuring out how to build an internal culture where we're saying, okay, when we need to accomplish something or we're going to create a new process, are we asking what can be automated, or what information can AI do for us that will speed up or make that more efficient or easier to use? And the next move is getting our customers to make that cultural movement, right? So I felt like last year, everybody's thinking, well, how do I get my people thinking this way? Now we're all somewhere on the journey. Some are further than others along, but it's really all about how do we think automation and AI first? How do we set down some of these old ways? And I tell you, you know, nothing is more dangerous in a business than progressing via myopia and inertia. Just that's how we've done it. It's like one of the worst answers as to why you do something. Now, it's proven it's the best answer, or this is the way we know we need to do. Those are better answers, right? But just because that's how we've done it, it's like, and it's always shocking to me, Bobby and Jared, in my MSP business or another MSP business I've talked to, it is harder than you think to get your people to do something different than the way they understand. It is very difficult. This is why you need things that are intuitive. That's where AI helps. That's where, like, look, the whole premise originally thing they explained to me about Thread was, hey, this is now getting people to interact with your PSA via Slack or Teams. That's incredible. Why? Because that's where people actually talk.
Absolutely.
How many people love their email? Nobody loves their email, but that's how most PSAs are interacting with their customer. It's such a miss.
Yeah,
Such a simple idea, you know?
I love getting into like how change is hard, because like to give MSPs credit and service desk managers, I think often struggle with it the most. It's like, I'm hitting all my KPIs. Like I've been running a great service desk and I've put all these things in place, and like now you want to change it. Why would we change it? Like we have pretty good service gross margins. Like how could you be mad at me about those things? But if that's it, it's like we can't just stay status quo. And that's legitimately like really difficult. And I think that's one of the, going back to like Roost and the culture and community, like I met so many MSPs that are like upper echelon, like great MSPs who were at the Roost conference, and they were like, we're just here to start our automation journey. Like we don't have an automation plan. We don't use really any AI or stuff besides the RMM. And props to everyone who was here and was saying that. Like that's a humble thing to say,
Yeah.
especially if you're on stage at all these conferences and crushing it in EBITDA and still saying, I don't know what I'm doing with automation. Most MSPs aren't even at that point yet.
Right.
So to see like everyone at Flow is in that upper echelon as far as trying to automate, and they're admitting we have no clue what we're doing yet. It just shows how far there is for the community to go, which I think should be viewed as opportunity, not like, oh, we're not there yet. Like it's not negative, but how do you make it easier?
100% it's opportunity. I mean, here's the thing. There are headwinds in the MSP space. I've seen the industry benchmarking. I know that most MSPs last year were flat or lost ground, even though they might still be. So when people are coming and saying, hey, I'm crushing EBITDA, I'm still handling my service tickets this way, we're still doing these kind of projects, I say, that's great. And yes, continue to do so. I'll do the same in my MSP, but we now categorize that as legacy clients because there is headwinds in the industry. I have clients coming say, okay, we don't have servers anymore. We don't have this. Why am I not paying you like half of what I used to pay you? And there are MSPs out there going, yeah, we'll charge you half. There are meaningful headwinds coming. And the way you have to evolve is you got to get higher up the food chain with the client, right? The big concept here is like, look, the infrastructure business is almost nearly dead, in my opinion. Will we have legacy clients that hang on for another 5 years? Of course. We'll still have a few servers here and there, and the BCDRs, we need to back them up, and we'll have the clients that still have that client server application that they just can't get away from. But the reality is the vast majority and nearly every client we interact with, it's all about how do we get rid of all that old school approach. And so then now you're dealing with a bunch of SaaS applications, and their computer basically needs to have, some Office suite on it, maybe, and a web browser. And then the need is security and help desk for that. But that is such a smaller scope than what we're used to. And so if we're not getting up the food chain talking process flow with the customer and how we can help them automate and how we can help them leverage AI, our relevance is diminishing. This is what I think the Flow conference is there to help us with, is we get the community together and we get to say, okay, how are you addressing this problem? Because I know that in 2 to 3 years, I'm not going to have any of the same stuff that I've been doing in any new client engagement. It's just not even going to be there. And so it's like those that aren't ready to make this next major change and aren't getting ahead of it and figuring out how to change your culture and how to do it, it's a huge miss. That's what I love about the Flow conference, because it, in my opinion, is focused on the future of being an IT service provider. And other conferences, in my opinion, still have a lot of folks saying, well, I do this and I do that and I got great EBITDA. I say, that's great, continue. But you got to recognize, it's like, in my opinion, being in the printer business, how many people are printing compared to used to. There's just a recognizable decline in that business that you have to be ready for,
For sure. And I think that means in the next 2 years, you can make a ton of money automating. And in 3 to 5 years,
this is a great segue
have to do it to be able to exist, right? Like if you're not at that point in 5 years, it's over. But in the short term,
it's awesome. No surprise to that point. We're already hearing from some of the larger PE-backed MSPs where they believe that current MSP pricing will change and where it will evolve. I mean, a simple Google search alone, what do you think will happen in MSPs over the next 5 years? One of the first things that you're going to get responded back is the shift from the current solution-based pricing models that are out there with, we're going to charge you X for this item and this item and this item, with more of a shift towards a value-based pricing model where the outcome is going to be far more important than the tools and the products that you're putting into the client environment.
Yeah, I mean, the infrastructure business is what a lot of us have lived off of. Like, like we'll do service business, but it's so different when you don't have these servers to maintain, these backups to maintain, and frankly, just the relevance of like some of the traditional approaches to firewalls and switches. How much does that still even apply? And how many MSPs rely on that as their base point? And they're still operating thinking, I've got to do every customer exactly the same, stamp this out. That's where I gain my efficiency. And that's beneficial. It's worked. But will that maintain? Will that be relevant? Is that relevant for a large slot of clients today? There is an enormous marketplace for customers that need some basic IT support, some basic help, but they really need is automation and AI consulting. And that's our belief. That's where we're shifting and pivoting. We're still handling the legacy customers, and some of the most intractable are going to be our bigger co-managed customers. But in the grand scheme of things, we are just seeing this shift enormously in that prime MSP sub 100 employee space, where a lot of MSPs have the majority of their business. There's just it's converting quickly, very, very quickly now, you know.
So let's talk for a second. There were a few different announcements that came around at Flow. And of course, we all know at this point that Flow 2026 is already in the works and is going to be happening in Nashville. But that's not really the big news. What do we see happening in Roost as it stands now? It's all about AI. We're starting to see more AI functionality baked into Roost, not just to allow you to integrate with AI tools, but to really help you develop your own automations and workflows faster by using RoboRoosty, their in-house AI, to help generate some of those workflows and help map out some of those processes for you. That's a really, really huge thing that's coming in that's going to certainly help MSPs that are struggling to get automation off the ground. What do you guys think about that?
Oh man, I'll jump in first, and Bobby, I love your take on it, because some of the AI things you guys are doing with Thread is just incredible, and we use it internally, we use it with our customers, and it's been great. From our perspective at Raven Automation, it's funny, we had some people come up and say, hey, they're going to have AI writing workflows. What's Raven going to do? And honestly, if the value of our business was simply that we know how to write a workflow, there's not a lot of value in what we're doing. It's my take on it is this is a very, let me put it this way. It's getting back closer to the original vision. Very early on, Aaron Chernin and I, if you don't know Aaron, the founder of Roost, had a conversation where he was bringing up the concept of doing this type of automation in the MSP space. He saw the hole, he saw the need. It's not an easy thing to build. We see major players trying to build competing products, and they just fall short, in my opinion. They just are not as capable. And there's a lot of work and effort. He's a smart guy. But when he very first explained it to me, he said, what if it was as simple as English language? You just say, hey, I need a ticket that does this and this and this, and then goes this way. And it was easy. Now, what they've done is they've created a really capable tool, but it's not as easy to work as just an uninformed MSP help desk guy can say this, this, and this, and automation occurs, right? I think he's still driving to that vision. And the answer to making it easier is the AI answer, because it is a bit difficult. Now, do I think that the AI is going to replace us? No, but I, just like anybody else, this is what I told the Raven automation team, because they had a similar question. I said, look, just like everybody else, we should now use this when we're writing workflows for our customer. This is now a great tool that's been added to the toolbox for everybody. And maybe some will self-serve better, but that's okay, because what we offer to the table is pre-built functioning things and an AI culture and an AI system and a maintenance and monitoring stuff. And so there's so much more. And this is just a way to write the language. And will it do QA the same? Will it have the same flexibility? I think just like every AI, it gets you like 80% there. There's still an expertise element required, right? So I think it means that we'll be able to write automations faster. I think our customers that we work with will be able to help write some of their own. But in the grand scheme of things, I don't think it even comes close to replacing our value or even a little bit. But I think that it's a benefit to all of us, including our own ability to help our customers. So it's incredible. I think it's a very natural progression, and I look forward to them continuing to make it easier and easier, because that means we'll have to spend less time coding when we're helping our clients.
Absolutely. I'd love to add some more thoughts to that too, but I want Bobby to get a chance to share his thoughts.
Thanks, Jared. Yeah, I think it was really cool that they announced specific things. And it wasn't like, hey, we have OpenAI and Claude and these in tool, and you can do what you want with them.
Right.
Stop. Like, that's what a lot of vendors do, right? And it's like, cool. And then you get in there and it's like, I can't build this from scratch. What are we doing? So the fact that they weren't like, here's 27 AI things that we're going to release, it was like, here's like 3 things that are going to be huge. And Aaron demoed them on stage. Like, they're real. And they are addressing some of the bigger challenges with Roost, of that it has been hard. And even working with Raven, it's still hard to get like a ton of automations in place. Like, I like to say you could boil the ocean with Roost. Just depends like how long you have. And these should make it easier to boil the ocean. This should make it easier to automate like everything you want to automate,
Right.
which is huge. So yeah, I mean, my main takeaway from that is just like, so cool that they released a few really awesome things with AI.
Yeah, I feel like that was like one of the biggest announcements of the conference. So
back to how AI is going to transform things in terms of building workflows. AI in itself is a great tool that's out there, but there's still a lot of room for improvement in many of the language models that are out there. And, look, I can tell you firsthand, there are numerous times where I've had AI help me throw together some code for something I'm working on just to help save time. But it's created by people, and people are not perfect. So as a result, the AI is not perfect either. So sometimes things are flat out wrong. Sometimes the things are misinterpreted. And that's really only part of the picture that, yeah, AI will help you build the workflow, but the AI is not going to help you create the integrations into your other tool sets. It's not going to help you set up the other things in the infrastructure, like databases in Azure or other components that you may need. So it's a great, useful tool to help deliver that workflow faster, but it still doesn't replace a person knowing exactly what they're doing. And that person could be Raven, that person could be somebody on your own team, but it doesn't replace the person there driving this thing forward.
That reminds me of a conversation I must have had 10 times at Flow, when people are coming by and we're talking about, they're asking what we're doing, we're telling about our thing, and so many people, that's kind of like one of their big takeaways. I can't just have a person do this a little bit. I think I need dedicated team members to this.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that in some ways, that's what created Raven Automation. Jared and I were working together in an MSP that does pretty good business, all right. And our Jared's second in command, who I think some ways maybe now is even better at it than even Jared. And Jared's pretty dang good at this.
Joe's pretty awesome. There's no doubt about that.
Joe's amazing. Yeah, Joe got to come to Flow too, so a lot of customers got to meet him. That was a lot of fun for him to put face to, to the name. But people are coming up and saying, okay, the sliding somebody in as, you're my NOC manager, you're going to handle all of our backups, and I want you to manage this team, and you're also the one that does all of our automation. Not the best formula for success. Jared, I hear you say this all the time. It's like you get out of it what you put into it, right?
Absolutely.
And so I think that's one of the themes, is you need to have dedicated resources, or if we can do a shameless plug, outsource somebody to help you with that, right? But the need to have people that are dedicated to the thought process is pretty real. People do not realize the amount of time it takes to put these together with the right quality, the right point of view, with the right process thinking, and then even to take it to the next level, how to coach our customers through that. How are you changing your VCIO role to be a process consultant for AI and automation? If you're not thinking that way, you're not doing enough to move this forward, right? So I feel like that's one of the big recognitions. At the first year in Flow, I'm not sure I had as many people that thought this way, but this year people were saying it. again and again, I guess I really need to commit to it. And I think, like I said, I was alluding to earlier, I think that that was one of the ways that our MSP has been successful, that Jared used to be a part of, and really why we created Raven. I just think that we had the wherewithal to dedicate 2 full-time, really, let's not Jared and closure, really high-end resources to doing nothing but it. And I think that made all the difference, And
Karl,
so
one thing,
value there, sure, but it was a little tense to say, okay, these are some salaries and some costs and some things that they're not doing anymore. That's not easy, right? Yeah.
one thing I've run into the similar conversation, and I have a few memories this year of like having dinner with automation engineers at like Write a Boom in different places, and just picking their brain on like, so what are you doing? What are you excited about? What are you building? Like, what's your roadmap? What are the next 10 things you're going to do? And I'm generally surprised that there's not a lot of good answers to that typically. Like, even when I meet like a full-time automation engineer, it's like, whatever the CEO tells me to do this week, I'm going to automate this week. And sometimes that's reporting. Like sometimes that's like working with whatever random software it is. And I think that's where like experts like you guys and the Roost community, their weekly calls, like guidance on like, okay, you have this full-time person. Now, where do they start? What do they do? How do you allocate that time? Because it's so easy to be like, this is an expense. It's hitting the bottom line directly. I'm going to pull them back and build the other things that I want built or is a problem or whatever. How did you guys protect 2 full-time people to be able to be strategic?
Man,
Can I chime in on that one, Karl?
Yeah, that's such a good question. It's like, so first of all, I would say as the leader, I became convicted, and this is 4 years ago now, I think, something like that. And so we were just ahead of the curve, right? In some ways. And I said, well, okay, I became convicted as a leader that I meant it when I said they're dedicated. We started shedding things off of their task list. We started spreading knock rolls out to other people, bringing other people into the team. We really, truly, I said, we're gonna work at it. And that gave us the opportunity to say, oh crap, we really have to make this work because this is expensive. And this, if we don't focus on it, it's not gonna work. And then really early on, we realized, okay, once we start thinking this way, lots of people have ideas. In fact, the list of ideas was far longer than some people say, well, what are they going to spend their time doing? That was not hard to come up with at all.
Sure.
No,
So then
I can tell you.
Then we created a board for it where people could submit tickets for ideas. And then we started holding meetings where we prioritized them. And then we started saying, Jared, we need you to figure out how to estimate the amount of time involved. And we prioritize. So we created this culture where we had meetings around prioritizing. We created a system for that roadmap. I think the biggest thing was learning all these things everybody has to learn. It's like, oh, I can't believe that's going to take 80 work hours to produce that automation. And then I have to sit there and think, okay, well, what do I think the benefit is? And does that benefit outweigh it? And how long does that last? And so we really early started to understand, A, how to build the culture around it, B, how to organize and prioritize it, and then see how to measure the ROI on it. And so that to me is a great example of why I love the Thread product too, because you're taking things I think maybe we could have figured out how to solve. Like I can go get AI and start working on things, but man, it's inexpensive compared to what it would take for me to build that myself. And so to me, it's like, it's such an easy use case and it's such a good price point, and you have a great community as well. And so from my perspective, it's like, why on earth would I spend the time to do that? Same thing, it's like you need to build your own automation team, but if you're not going to do it, you need somebody like Raven, either us or one of our competitors out there to help you with that process, because you need to have that culture, you need to have that prioritization, you need to get past these things, learn from those of us that have done it already, or pick the vendor,
Do you guys have content or courses on like, you have a full-time automation engineer, now what?
Well, I think more than anything, we've been trying to do webinars for those kind of topics. In fact, we've literally had that as a topic in a past webinar.
I love that. That's so cool.
I guess we're not so far into it, but I will tell you this: like, we get kind of engaged for 2 different reasons. One is because somebody's got a backlog and they just want us to help, or they want to get access to our catalog of automations pretty much ready to drop in and then customize for your individual use. or they want us to teach their team how to do this. And we don't mind either. We're happy to be that quarterback for them and work with them rather than just be the automation team for them. We do both, And
I love the
it's
idea of like I went to Flow, bring it back to Flow. I went to Flow and I heard that I need an automation engineer. Like similar to you, I had at least 4 conversations just in the hallway where I'm like, hey, what's interesting? And they're like, I realize I need to put a full-time person on this type of stuff. We've been kind of half-assing it and it's okay, but we need a full-time person. I love the idea of like, we have that full-time person and now Raven is the quarterback for that person. Me, Mr. CEO, doesn't know how to manage this person. I don't know what they're supposed to be doing. Like Raven is also almost like the strategic manager for this.
Yeah, I literally think of us, we're like the Obi-Wan. Solid nerd reference, right?
Awesome.
We're here to be that guide, I suppose. And really, the MSP is the hero of the story. They're the ones out there doing the work. They're the ones out there, gaining new efficiencies and doing these things. And then I love it when it turns into customer experience too. That's what I really love about the thread use case as well, because you're now changing the interface in a way for the customer, and it's so much easier for them. And you're at the same time putting use cases in for AI. For instance, you at the conference, I think you talked about some new agents that you guys have put into thread. I'd love for you to share what you guys have recently come up with.
First, I love the Obi-Wan reference. Based on that, I'd kind of have to say I was probably Luke Skywalker. I was really whiny at first and complained a lot, but eventually kind of got on board and started to head in the right direction.
It's true. Jared, I said, Jared, this is your world now. And he's like, no, this doesn't work. It's stupid.
I don't have time.
Why do I even need this? Like every knock engineer I've ever known, I love my automate. I'm good. I'm like, okay, well, I'm sorry.
Yeah. But I will say the automation engineer, the automation expert is only part of that. A big thing that is a focus of conversation in virtually every Roost conference or every Roost talk is that automation center of excellence. You need more than just the automation engineer out there. There has to be that executive level support that you were talking about, Karl. And there really has to be that automation champion that's helping figure out what are the things that we need. Unfortunately, if you leave that up to just your automation engineer, the majority of the time, that automation engineer is going to build the things that makes his or her life easier, and not necessarily the things that you really need for the whole ROI picture. Anyway, I'm sorry, Bobby. I rudely cut you off, so it's all you.
Yeah, Bob, tell us about what the new things you guys brought up at the Flow conference. I'm excited.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we're really pumped to have a formal integration with Roost. For a while, we've been able to say like, and I think Aaron and team and like with this integration, we've really figured out how to talk about Thread and Roost together. Every automation tool and AI tool has a little bit of feature overlap, but I think our messaging where like Thread is customer facing, we are the triage piece. We're going back and forth with the end user. It's agentic, like all that stuff. We get all the info. It's something complicated, you have a Roost flow for it, or you want to build a Roost flow for it, Thread can kick it off. It does all the work, comes back, tells the end user, zero touch ticket closure, like end to end. It's super powerful. So first, like the formal integration side of it is makes it a lot easier. And there's like security that's a part of it. You can link our tools together, and there's some crates, and there's a lot more coming there. So really excited about that. And just having like the Thread and Roost team working closer together from an onboarding and product and all of that. And that's where like Raven, there's some work to do. It's not like you just click a few buttons. Like we on both sides can help you out, but that's where I'm like, hey, if you're doing Thread and Roost together and you want to like really get to like 30% of my tickets are closing with nobody touching them, that's where I'm like, you really should have Raven in the picture alongside your team to storyboard and connect these holistically. Because even if it's not the most complicated thing, there's work there.
We can at least help you not make all the same mistakes we made.
Exactly.
That's really what it's about, right? As sharing the wisdom of others or learning it the hard way yourself, you can choose.
Yeah.
Bobby, you guys have this great graphic that kind of shows the scalability side. So let's jump in for a second, kind of shift away from the rest of this discussion. And let's talk about the transformative aspect of the solutions together. Walk us through
Yeah.
this.
I use this slide at like Evolve and stuff a lot, and it's funny. I find that the 200 endpoints per technician is like really pretty accurate.
Yeah.
You'll meet an MSP that's like, I have 400, I have 600, and then you ask some questions, and it's like, okay, well those are like not fully managed, or they're a different type of customer or whatever, or maybe I have 100, and it's like, wow, you are on site all the time, you're super hands-on. There's not really a right or wrong. You can have 100 endpoints per tech, but you're charging 4 times what another MSP is, and vice versa. The bigger outcome that this is trying to point towards is we find with assistive AI and kind of like entry-level automations, you should be able to get a 25% increase in efficiency in your MSP without like doing crazy stuff. Doing stuff that the customer probably doesn't even know about. At Thread, we say death to the ticket. That's why we dress up as pirates and all of that. And I would consider this middle row like the death to the ticket section of like, when we say that, we mean like you have to do time entries and change statuses and boards and internal notes and copy and paste things and have super long email threads and have email connectors and all these things where it's like, if I could just get rid of all of the really lame stuff tickets make me do,
Oh yeah.
I could be 25% more efficient. And just with like basic assistive AI and automation, you can see that. And that's what I would expect like somewhat quickly. This also gets into the conversation of like hard versus soft dollar savings. Love a fun soft
Opportunity
dollar.
loss versus meaningful dollar in the bank account for sure. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. When you start using Thread, for example, in the first week, we'll say you saved $30,000. Here's how you did it. But it's like, that's not in your bank account. But we did legitimately save a lot of time, right? And if we extrapolate that to dollars, like Roost had a similar thing on stage where I don't know what the number was, but Aaron was like, we've automated 1.2 billion hours, or I have no clue what it was, but it was like a huge, awesome number. But those are soft dollars, right? It's like, based off this happening X amount of times, we say that it's worth this much. We want to get to real hard
I wouldn't
dollars.
shortchange the soft dollar entirely. So I wouldn't dismiss the value entirely, although there is meaningful dollars to be made too. But the key thing is like what I love as an MSP owner is one is my employees are happier because these stupid, annoying, repetitive, mind-blowing, annoying tickets just don't have the same problem anymore. They don't have to deal with them like that. Some of them just feel like they go away altogether because you don't have to touch them. Some of them you do very little. It's 10% of what you used to have to spend on it. But even more so, it means that they're actually doing the things that are more fun or more important, and our customers have a better experience. And so I view it just as much as a morale booster, but also a customer retention point of view. And so even to get to that assistive level, it's going to help your customers want to stay with you. And that's a big deal. It's like, it's worth thinking because you got to kind of work on both ends. How do I add new customers and how do I protect my existing,
Totally. And you probably have a backlog of tickets you're not touching. There's probably project work you could have taken on. Like that soft dollars makes an impact like day one, week one. But I think in addition, what is really cool is we can also get the hard dollar savings like pretty quickly with the assistive alone. Like if you do all that depth of the ticket stuff, now you can probably skip a hire. Like the next tech you were going to hire when you bring on some more customers, or maybe you don't backfill a position. We see a lot of repurposing dispatchers. That's like we helped an MSP go from 6 dispatchers to 2 recently.
Your guys' triage process is really good, hands down. Yeah.
So there's a lot on the assistive. I think on the agentic, like we've seen MSPs literally double their endpoint to technician ratio, and this is where Roost comes in a lot too. Of like, there's a lot of work technicians do that you can displace, and I think doubling, when we talk about the future of the MSP and what type of work you're doing and the hardware not being a part of it, like this endpoint to technician ratio needs to double, triple, quadruple, and provide different types of value. Again, if you can do this in the next year, you're just going to make a ton of money for a little while, and then you'll be ahead.
Yeah, then it will, then the curve will start to level out, and pricing of MSP will go down, and so yeah, there's definitely hay to be made when you're an early adopter. I think we've passed the bleeding edge stage a while ago, and we're now in the early adopter stage, and so we're going to hit the normal zone pretty soon, and then people who haven't done this will be laggards. You know, that's the life cycle, right? And
That's right.
I think we're at the tail end of the early adopter stage here, is how I feel about it.
Well, I have
This
to
is,
say, one of my favorite features of Thread now are the reminder agents.
oh yeah,
Anyone that's ever spent time as a service manager completely understands how painful it can be sometimes to have people follow up on tickets that are waiting on a response. You know, we're no different, right? We're a service organization at the root level, so we still run into some of those same challenges. But having those reminder agents that can go out and get that AI-based recap of what's going on in that ticket and constantly notify your client every single day, hey, we need something from you. Here's what we need. Man, it's a complete game changer.
it's powerful, and
We
I
turn
love
that
it as
on.
I love it as an MSP owner because it's helping with my customer touch, which I'm always freaked out about my people ignoring my customers. Like, did you get back with them? Did you tell them? And making that communication so much more easier is such a huge win. Such a great idea. What a great add to the product that Thread added. So
Well, you know, at the end of the day, client retention is all about engagement.
yes,
If you can't keep your clients or your partners engaged with you, they're not going to be your partners forever. And Thread is a great way to help drive that engagement. You know, we can see that in our own business. The partners that we are most engaged with, they are the ones that are happiest with us. And that engagement largely is driven through Teams communications.
yeah.
We still have some that happen through Discord because of our ties back into
Sure.
Roost, but it's really all about that engagement piece.
Yeah,
And
when
Thread
they're
is so critical to driving
face
that.
happening. Yeah, just saying.
I didn't catch
I
that,
think
Carl. I
you're
was
pressure
too busy running my mouth.
what I think what's awesome about Reminder Agent too is when we talk about this assistive versus agentic, is it's really low risk. It's an easy place to get started. You know, people can, when we talk about the curve, having AI talk to your customers, especially on an initial engagement, you should absolutely do it. It's freaking awesome. Tons of MSPs are doing it, but it's a bigger jump. Like people are afraid of it, and so when we talk about like how do you get started, where's some quick wins? The reminder agent is huge because it's like you've already got the ticket open. It's just doing follow up. It's smart. It's going to do it well. Your team's probably not doing it today, so the bar is pretty low for like where it needs to provide value. And that's one reason we did it, is we're like, hey, how can we make it easier to start getting AI interacting with your customers? And it doesn't have to be the intake. So it's
Right.
it's been really cool.
Look, I'll tell you this, what you should think along these lines, and how are you developing and what the strategy. This is a visionary comment. And so for those of you that are listening that are business owners or the visionary or driving the strategy, how can you think in this way? How can it go from human powered assistive to agentic? And what are the characteristics, and what are our gaps, and what do we need to add? And look, you know, maybe it's using Roost, Raven, and Thread. I would shamelessly say this is a combination that has had a great degree of success. And so we love it when our customers are saying, hey, I have Roost and I have Thread, and we're here to help you drive that home. It's a powerful combination. You could replace these vendors with other options, and
Absolutely.
there's really no problem with it. I would argue you might not be working with the best, you know, but look, it's all about how do you think in these terms, and how are you developing and evolving your MSP to be the next version of MSP that we need to be. I think what one of the messages is I'm getting from the Flow conference, what's next is like, look, we need to clean up our own house. We need to be more efficient. We need to get our technicians doing these things. And then how are we improving the customer experience, and how are we migrating what we offer to the customer to be what they need now, rather than selling them more servers or making sure that we're deploying 17 firewalls. You know, like any customer needs it, of course we're still going to do it, but we're missing the boat when we're not helping them with their AI and automation journeys. That's where the future is. And that's what I see when I talk to the people at Flow. I see the people who I think are evolving our industry where it is naturally going to have to go.
Yeah, for sure. And to that point, flow is over. We've got some great takeaways. What's next? Um, this is a great opportunity for all of our partners to start considering how they plan to start delivering automation into their client environments and how they plan to start driving that additional revenue. This is a great opportunity to, if you're not using something like Thread, to start looking into how can I incorporate this and further improve my operational efficiency? How can we make the life easier for our service desk? I know that we've only got a few minutes left in our time slot today, so I want to make sure that if there's anyone that has a question out there, you've got Karl, who is a phenomenal business leader and understands everything from the business side. We've got our AI expert, Bobby. So don't miss out on that opportunity to ask a question if you haven't. Outside of that, I would tell you, look, start booking some calls. Sit through a demo with Thread and see how that can help transform your business. You can talk to us at Raven. We're happy to show you more about how we can take Thread and Roost together, or any other RPA tool for that matter, and how you can further transform your business.
Yeah, we're
Bobby,
working
you have any final thoughts there?
We're working with all the major PSA products. We're integrating all sorts of other tools as well. We're helping people with their flow, helping them build that culture. And we couldn't be more thrilled when a client says that they also want to integrate, have us help them integrate Thread, or frankly, a lot of times the folks that Thread are saying, introducing their customers to Raven, and we would do the same. It's a very cool combo, and if you haven't considered how these can work together, I'd say take a hard look at it. And you could talk to either of us about that. And then just generally, if you're ready to start your service journey, book a call with us and we'll get back with you, and you can just find out more details about how we operate. And similarly, Bobby, I assume that link's going to go to somebody that can help somebody really truly understand what Thread's doing and how it works and how to engage.
That's right. Absolutely, guys. Yeah, echo everything that was shared there. I'd say if you're like I met some people at Flow who weren't using any of us yet. Like Roost had been there. I'd say if you want probably us and Roost would both say you should use us both, but you should use us first, whoever it is. Raven is probably the most unbiased there. So I'd say chat with Raven.
Yeah, we say use it all.
Yeah, but I'd say tell Raven what you want to solve first.
Yeah.
Or Thread or Roost. I think we'll both be honest, but tell Raven what you want to solve first. And you can dive into that journey. I'd say my two recommendations following up from Flow is make sure you're staying involved in community. Roost's weekly call, Thread's weekly call, both really, really awesome communities. And we both have Discords and such beyond that you can stay involved in. I think we have the two leading AI and automation communities there. And then, I meet a lot of MSPs that are doing Thread and Roost and aren't working with someone else. I'd say at least pick Raven's brain on how they could be helpful.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thanks, Bobby. Yeah, well, look, it's all about the future. It's all about us creating the business that's going to get us what we're looking for out of life and provide for our customers, provide for the people, the great people that work for us. To me, I take it as a great responsibility. I feel compelled to make sure my business stays relevant and compelled to make sure that we're successful. And I feel like part of my life journey is to be helpful to others. And this is what I found is the best way. And so I'm convinced that this is the path, and I hope others can see the value of this journey. And we're here to be helpful, and we're here to cooperate with others. And once again, we just appreciate the partnership we're building with Thread and the partnership we have with Roost as well. And really, frankly, a lot of other MSPs that some would think are our competition, but frankly, it's not like I run into them every day at some customer. It just doesn't work that way. So why not work together? I love it. I love what we're doing, and I'm convinced this is the path to success.
Absolutely.
Great stuff, guys. Super fun hanging out. Looking forward to the next collab we have here.
Yeah, let's look same here, Bobby. Appreciate it.
Yeah, for sure. With that, we're going to wrap up for the day, but I want to say thank you to everyone that took some time out to attend this session with us. If you have any questions, please go ahead and book one of those calls, reach out to us, and we will be more than happy to help steer you in the direction that you need to go.